Good evening and welcome to tonight's episode of the Orta No Better podcast. I am joined by Luke. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
And Karl, how are you doing?
I'm all right, yeah. Not too bad. Bit of a headphone issue.
Very good. Bit of an headphone issue, but we'll be fine.
Yeah.
So we've got quite a bit to get through tonight, quite excitingly. So it feels like it's been forever talking about all the same stuff. But we'll get an intro going and we'll get straight into it.
Hi, this is Don Matteo, and you are listening to the Orta No Better podcast. Let's do this.
You look like fucking Brolin, you're a Leeds eating bastard.
Look like some sort of fucking weird floating head. No.
You tensile player a bit, innit?
I mean, I feel a bit right, dickhead.
Nothing spectacular, really.
I feel a bit right, dickhead. Do you know, honestly, I tell you what, it feels like ages since I've been on a pod. It really feels like ages. Almost like I've stolen the Pod Dodger title for a while. But we're back. And first things first, a little break away from the running order that we did speak about before coming on here. I just want to talk about what a sexy shirt this is.
Fucking gorgeous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's tasty.
I want too certain of it when I first saw pictures, and there were rumours circulating for a while, and you could see the peacock in the background and whatever else. We didn't know what were going to be on the front of it, and you can never be entirely certain of the colours and all of that. I want too sure, but then I saw it in person and bought it immediately. So there we go.
Well, how hard is it to get our home shirt right? Like, it's not difficult. Look, you're wearing it.
It shouldn't be difficult. And I can see Luke's got one as well. He's not got it on.
I'll never wear it. I'll never ever wear it. I don't know why I buy them. Then I've literally got a fucking wardrobe full of Leeds United shirts that I've never worn.
You've worn a few on the pod.
I've worn a few on the pod, actually. Yeah, that's about as close to me wearing them though as I ever get. In fact, I've got a good story. Not even a good story, just a story. About 5, maybe 6 years ago, I collated all my old shirts and give them all to my mum. In fact, it might not have even been that long ago. It might have been on the pod. I might have spoken about this before. And she cut them all up.
Yeah, she
made a patchwork mattress. Mattress, a patchwork bed quilt.
Blanket
Well, said
thing.
she was making one. I still haven't seen it. And we're talking.
Right, okay.
All right, so it's still in
she
production.
started one. Yeah, it's still in production.
Right.
I don't know if she's waiting for some more shirts or what, but she won't be getting this one in a hurry because it's my favourite for a very, very, very long time. In fact, I compared it to the Kappa one that you didn't really like, Gilly. I don't think. Was it you?
No, I think it
was smart.
I was about to say it might have been smart. The one without the sponsor on.
Yeah, the sponsorless one. I think was our best shirt for since probably Nike.
You had to be built like a Bielsa player for it to look good on you.
Yeah. I mean,
but it was a sexy shirt.
It touched parts of your body you didn't know you had, didn't it? You know what I mean? It probably should be on a molestation charge, that shirt, but it was lovely. I really liked it simply because of how basic it was, and the players that played in it, I think as well. With Cook, was it Cook, Phillips, and Byron who were the poster boys then that season?
And
Charlie Taylor.
Maybe.
Charlie Taylor was there as well. Mowat, Charlie Taylor, Sam Byram were and Lewis Cook were the four that were presented in it.
Yeah, because Calvin was playing as a centre attacking midfielder when that shirt came out.
It was, yeah.
He
was. And scoring
and
goals.
He scored some belters, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, just on the shirt, really quick plug. If you want to follow us on Twitter, please do. And go retweet that tweet because I don't know when we're going to announce it, but might be tomorrow, it might be in a week's time. We just don't know.
Put your pen down, though.
I haven't got a pen.
You had so much.
It's like that. There, yeah. That magic trick.
That was very
really
convincing.
Well. I mean, that was amazing. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, that was class. You've done well.
I still get the kids with that one.
As Luke mentioned, we are running a competition at the moment for you to win one of these sexy shirts. So get over to our Twitter and follow whatever it says. I can't remember. Did we say like, retweet, and do something on YouTube?
I think we
or something?
subscribe to our YouTube channel so we can look like we're relatively important in the world of LUFC. content creators. We're not really. I wouldn't even say we're content creators, would you? I think we're just a group of lads that like to have a bit of fucking dig about stuff on a Tuesday night.
I think so, yeah.
A few beers
Absolutely.
with some mates in it.
Yeah.
And it actually started because
crack.
of lockdown, didn't it? If you remember. So now we just do it because it's more force of habit. Like any minute it could just end, and none of us would feel any differently. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was. We couldn't go to the pub, so we'd have a beer and talk about football on Zoom instead. As it started off, wasn't it? We were on Zoom.
Some of them early ones when we were absolutely steaming. How we got? I fell asleep on one of the pods.
You did. It was Cy Johnson, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Gilly fell asleep and thought the pod was on at 4 a.m.
Oh no, I need to get up pod, and it was 4 a.m. It was my birthday.
Yeah. That's that was your get out of jail card, really, wasn't it?
So I think that it's probably already quite obvious that we're all feeling quite different about stuff. I think you can see it in the comments. You can probably pick up on it in our voices and the way that we're talking to each other. I think there is a groundswell in there. There's an upswelling of opinion. You can even see it on Twitter, the most poisonous, noxious platform there's ever been. You can see the positivity there. Let's talk about how we feel about it first. So Luke, I'll come to you first. So we have a new ownership, and we've had the new chief exec talking to. No, he's not the chief exec, is he?
Chairman.
Whatever he is, chairman. I think Angus is still chief exec. So yeah, we've got a new chairman. He's done a podcast with the official Leeds United pod. We've had an opportunity to listen to. How are you feeling tonight, having heard that and having seen the news break that the EFL's finally got through the work to approve the takeover?
I mean, naturally positive. I think it was always going to happen. It was a formality. I just think the AFL have to do their due diligence and after I mean, with people like John Spieth and Michael Phelps and people investing. I mean, they're not really going to have any problem. There are hardly people who are going to be laundering money from offshore bank accounts and stuff. So I completely appreciate that the AFL have their job to do. But yeah, it was always going to be a formality for me. And I think we've seen that with the with the concrete offer or concrete interest, shall we say, in a player who I'm sure we're going to come on to talk about later on in a little bit more detail. But yeah, I watched Parag's interview and it really, really excited me. And look, I'm quite excitable anyway. I get quite excited about littlest things. But yeah, a lot of the things he said in that really, really did excite me and made me sort of eager for this coming season. And I said it almost as soon as we went down that I'm actually looking forward to seeing how we rebuild this and what changes we are going to make, because there are going to be some major changes for the better. And we all sort of had an inkling that the takeover was still going to happen, subject to ratification and everything else. But I don't think we expected it to this magnitude, in that there was going to be so many people involved and that they were going to take the bull by the horns and really get involved with it and take it. I'm probably doing them a disjustice here by saying taking it seriously. They were always going to take it seriously. They're an investment, but I probably underestimated how seriously and how well drilled and organised they are based on that, just on that one interview.
Yeah. I think that's pretty spot on as a breakdown of where we are at the moment. Karl, where's your head at now?
My head's at. It's in a good place, to be fair, like in relation to Leeds.
Is it in the room with you?
Well, I was just trying to put it into words because I'm a little bit, I'm not weary of it, but I'm just a little bit, cautious, because we've had these kind of words before, and look, Rads did, follow through on things that he said he'd do and that, but we've been burned, so I'm going to be a little bit cautious. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm delighted Rads is out the door because of the stuff that was revealed today in that interview, which we'll get onto. But Prague is he seems like an honest lad. So he's mad for standing up. So he's welcome in the South Stand whenever he wants. I overall, I'm quite pleased with it. Just cautious. I think with the people he's brought in, like all the Phelps and all them, like they're winning mentality people to have around. Yeah. Like that's the kind of group you want there, and you want the players to look at them and go, look at this guy, he's an Olympian and he's won 100 billion medals and he's class. And then you've got golfers who are winning PGAs and everything, and winning mentality breeds a winning mentality. And if the players get on board with what they want to do, then I don't see why, it can't end in a positive result this season for us. But again, I'll just be a little bit cautious just to see how things go at the start.
So do you think that caution is purely based on the fact that we've been burnt in the past?
I think so, yeah. And we've heard people that have owned us or looked to buy us or managed us talk like that before, and it can get a bit thin on the ground sometimes, because we get it a lot. Like when we've had quite a few owners over the last few years, like especially GFH, we got spun an awful tale of, yeah, we're going to be this and that, and it ended up being an absolute shit show. So I'm not trying to bring down the mood by any means. I'm
well, you've succeeded in doing it anyway.
Well, I'm very excited that we have new owners, but I'm just going to be cautious. That's all. That's what I'm getting at.
I think one of the things from me that came out of that interview was he opened with I can't remember exactly what he opened with, but one of the lines he said was he was going to offer full transparency, and that it was all signed off if we stayed up. It was all due to happen. That's where we were at. So the very fact that things got a little bit more complicated because we got relegated is, he was open. He was saying, look, I've done all these jobs in sports clubs before. I've done everything. He started as an intern at the 49ers about 20 years ago or something, I think he said, and he's done all these jobs, so he knows what the club needs and where they needed it. I suppose I share your concern, Karl, because he's been on the board for some time now. Why hasn't this come to fruition before? Is it because, and we mentioned this last season, the 49ers actually wanted to cut, it's the cynic speaking, but the 49ers probably didn't want to pass on all this information and knowledge, because if Rad succeeded, it was going to cost them 400 million quid. Whereas because they haven't succeeded, it's cost them 140, 170, whatever it is in total.
170 million, yeah.
So look, that's very cynical of me and of us, but we did mention it a couple of times last year. But was he withholding some of this information, some of this experience and knowledge back to get a cut price deal and then get us back in the big time and we're worth more than double? I don't know, but ultimately it feels like we're in safe hands for me. He said he's a fan first. I don't know whether I believe that or whether it's a bit of lip service.
Ticket prices would say differently, but yeah, go on.
The 80 quid to go and watch the Scum game was a bit excessive.
But
that's Norwegian prices. I mean, that had nothing to do with us. The pricing. I don't suggest. That was because they were playing football.
£18 a pint or something.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's just an expensive country.
It is, but just on that point around that the cynic point, let's say, I think he did touch on that, didn't he? Because I think it was Matt, wasn't it, that were asking him the questions, and he said, how difficult it was to be in a background capacity rather than steering the ship. You just or did he say piloting the plane? He had to stay in his seat or whatever he said.
Yeah.
And he was offering insight to the commercial deals. But it almost sounded like that was about it, and that was the extent of the remit, other than sitting on the board. So, he might have had a voice in the meetings, but they weren't in any way involved day to day with the actual running of the club by the sounds of it, which you think is a bit naive. And maybe if that hadn't been the case and there were more involved, maybe things might have gone better. And I think, I don't want to spend much time talking about him today, but, the guy pushing his underlings under the bus and saying, not me, Gov, and handing off all responsibility. But focusing on the positive, I think if you listen back to that pod, and I know we're plugging another pod, but at least it's the official one. If you listen back to it, everything, if you wrote down all of the things that you want him to talk about, and actually you think, this is what I want him to say about them, I think most of the things were covered. The things that we wanted to hear were pretty much the things that we wanted to hear. Were the things that he said, and I think it is testament to the fact that they've listened and they've watched, they've been involved in the running of the club, so that they know what to say anyway. But they're talking about Ellen Road, for example, and the potential to move away from that, or the potential to redevelop it. And I think he pretty much quashed the moving away talk and spoke about extension and overhauling the building as it is, and saying we have to be really cautious about not taking away from exactly what it is, and that's something that many other places don't have. And that's exactly what we wanted to hear, I think. I can't think of anything that wasn't discussed that I thought should have been.
Like, don't get me wrong, he did say everything that we wanted to hear, but again, that's what I'm cautious about, because he's telling us what we want to hear, and that like, I'm excited that it's new owners and they can prove to us that they do have the best intentions, and they can actually, play a game rather than just talk it. Like, so, like, that's my only concerns. Like, we've heard all that before, and that's just.
I think one of the things that really stuck up for me, just to sort of counteract that argument, though, Karl, is we've always heard it before, but Parag Marat, how do you say his surname? It was pronounced completely wrong. Marathi, yeah. I thought it was Marath.
Sorry, I should have let Karl say that, shouldn't I? He's been on form recently.
Man, I was thinking of that today as well. I was like, what am I going to nail today? Yeah.
What you do in your own time, mate?
I mean, names.
Yeah, it was his terminology and language that he used, and it was all us and we. And now I'm not sure if he's talking about us as a group, as a fans, or whether he's talking about us as an investment arm, or is he talking about us as a collective. But it's quite contrasting when you listen to him in comparison to even our most recent owner. I thought did an all right job in parts, in Rads, in comparison to what we have had, like you mentioned before, GFH, Massimo, etc. They were all very we. Rather than using it as a collective, it was very much selfish language, I suppose, is probably the best way of a word. But yeah, it's like you say, the Americans are really good with lip service. They're really good speakers. But he does install a sense of confidence, and I'm for in a relatively confident and competent place that we're in decent hands.
Yeah. I think that's all fair. Just because I touched on Ellen Road already, is the great thing about the fact that we've had the news now that it is now confirmed as an asset of community value. So the local authorities and so on will be involved if anybody tries to stop it. I think there were lots of questions around, does that mean it can't be developed without local approval and things like that? I think if you need planning permission, you need planning permission. That doesn't change anything. It's about the use that it's signed off for. If you're going to change the use of the property, i.e. if you're going to flatten it and put properties on there and sell homes or flats or whatever else, if it's going to be a change of use, it would then go to a local authority as an opportunity to buy. I think that's a really big deal, because my ass fell through when I read that it no longer was one, and then there was the potential of somebody using it as collateral and whatever else. That would have been something that would put it on a radar of the local authorities, but it wasn't listed as one of those controlled assets. So I think the fact that it is again, these are the things that that have been going on in the background, and I know that was more driven by supporters. It's just that even if that news had broken a couple of weeks ago, everybody would have gone, right, okay, at least that's one thing. That silence that we've had, just complete radio, just absence of noise. I don't know how everybody else feels, but it's driven me mad. I just wanted something.
Do you know what? I don't know if it's a bad thing. I think it just shows how astute and well drilled this investment. Sorry, I'm just sorting my fan out. It's just run out of battery.
Is that your only fan? Is it?
Hey, I just don't know how I feel. I think it's a nod to actually how professional this outfit are and what we can expect from them in the future. I don't think there are going to be a lot of leaks. I think Phil Hay, Graham Smith, etc., are going to find their jobs really, really tough under this ownership. And I think it's probably for a good thing. It's not well linked with every player in the world. I know Phil Hay came out and said Manning, Prero, Hamer, and all this bollocks, but I actually think he's guessing there. I just think he picked good players from the Championship last season who we should be linked with, and just had a stab in the dark. I didn't ever read his. I don't subscribe to the Athletic anymore, so I never had actually read his article. I just read the highlights, so I can't possibly comment in any greater detail than that. But if anybody has read it, then please do tell me I'm wrong. But yeah, I just think the silence, whilst frustrating, is positive, and it sets us up. I mean, one of the lines Marathi used was something along the line of, a good chairman is relatively silent, or should be silent. The best chairmans are silent, something along those lines. So, and I completely agree with him. You know, we've had one chairman previously who's absolutely bonkers. Whenever we get a win, he's on Twitter shouting his mouth off, and you don't hear from him then for 3 months till we get another win. So he's probably learned a lot from being in that boardroom with such a nutter. That actually he understands and maybe gets a bit of a feeling from the fan base as to what the expectations are. Say it, do it rather than say it. Do you know what I mean? Let the actual football do the talking, not yourself or your director of football or whatever else. So I whilst frustrating, I haven't minded it because I've not been arguing with people on Twitter and I've not been, I haven't.
Maybe a smidge.
Well, a tiny bit, but not much. Only that Fulham fan today, the dickhead.
Were you arguing with Jason as well, though? Did I misread that and it was somebody else?
Today.
Over the past couple of days, I've been working today, so I've not seen much. But over the past couple of days,
probably, mate, in some shape or form. But yeah, it's ultimately it's just an identifier, an indicator, I suppose, that we're working with a very, very professional outfit as our ownership.
I think another thing that was mentioned as well, and I know we've covered it in the past, so we won't go into any great detail, but the way that he's spoken about Daniel Farke, clearly they have confidence in him. It felt like they'd gone out to get him and got him. And then, the way that he talks about the showing that they had in the Championship underneath him, that they didn't just win it, they won it. I think they were 10 points clear of third place and cantered over the line towards the end. It wasn't a last minute thing. They were in control much of the season for each promotion. So I think if you've set your stall out because you're going to go get this manager and then you land this manager, it shows that there's a level of confidence there. It's not like 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th choice as we were after we'd made changes. It feels more controlled, and whether that's true or not, we'll see. But it feels that way.
I think your point is solid because they've given him a 4-year contract. And they were good. There was an article there today on the website saying that they were restructuring the footballing side of things. They've got this new guy coming in from Spurs, and they're going to keep the guy on that's there already until after the transfer window. So you can see that the organisation has already taken place. I think, again, it was probably just the takeover holding everything up. They couldn't announce stuff. They probably have all these lined up, ready to go, and we're just sitting there, like you said, Phil Haig guessing, plucking players out of the sky and just going, you know what, that'll stir up a few bits of interest on my piece or something, But
at least this will get me a bit of traction.
Yeah, something like that. So it's like, I think they want to see the club run properly. There was a comment there, we'll get to it in a bit, like just basically saying that all these sports people wouldn't be investing in us if they didn't feel they were confident in getting a return from their investment, which is a good point.
Yeah, it was Liam on it. The 2 golfers who invested, plus everyone else, I suppose, would want a return on the money. So the sports professionals have confidence in them. I just feels like we're being run properly. That article you mentioned was around specific roles getting pay rises, being paid what they're worth. Restructure of the football and everything. So people put in additional roles. But funny you mentioned about Farke there, Gilly. It was. Did you hear the dig about him not being dealt a full deck of cards when given the opportunity in the Premier League? Now, that probably is to back up their 4-year deal, because I think Farke's pushed that 4-year deal more than us. I think ideally we would have been probably looking at a 2-year deal because of his history in the Premier League. Now, they've obviously come to some sort of agreement where they've suggested, right, we'll go with 4 years, but this is and they sound like they're going to give him all the tools to do it, but they're singing all the right songs for me, and it could be. I mean, it should be a really exciting time to be going to watch Leeds. We'll still sell out every week, even if we're losing, but it will be nice to go to games with that, that sense of, right, we've got all the right men in the right positions now. We're not trying to blag it. We're not trying to, do it on the cheap, I suppose. And until we've got any evidence that we are trying to do that, we've got to take their word as gospel and parags. So yeah, look, I'm buzzing, and I love that dig at Norwich as well.
Yeah.
Do you think it was just a dig at Norwich, or do you think that was also a dig at Rads?
Possibly both. Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, I think there's been a couple of digs at Rads in that interview about the chairman speaking. Keep the best chairman's a quiet chairman and that sort of thing. So, look, he's probably learned how not to be a chairman. In the
Somebody
last
said that in the
since
comments, and actually, it rings true, doesn't it? He's sat there and watched it unfold while he's been part of the board, and now, can see the mistakes that have been made. So hopefully that will stand him in good stead. And I guess the other thing is he's a massive known person in America, in the sporting world and sporting context at least. He doesn't need to make a name for himself. He does not need Leeds. He doesn't need to achieve here to be seen as being a success anyway. He's already a success. So he doesn't need that ego bit that we saw in his predecessors. Where they wanted to be front and center. They wanted to be in the media. They wanted to be seen as, this is me. It's me that's delivered all of this success. And then obviously it's not me that's delivered this failure. It's him. But yeah, he doesn't need that. He's had success. He's had massive success at 49ers and changed their fortunes and moved stadiums and done everything else. And I'm not saying that means that he's going to move us from Elland Road by any stretch. It's just they needed that. And he's delivered that. So they're night and day from when he got involved with them. And a lot of that's down to him and his success in commercial enterprise and whatever else, because it feels like that's his specialism, is those contracts and those commercials.
Yeah, I think you're right. And just, sorry, Karl, just to compare what he did, what they did at the 49ers, they're not comparative, really. The 49ers asked to initially from what I understand, I was listening to Jer earlier on today. They asked to extend and build and redevelop the stadium, and the local councils or the actual towns and cities are very much involved in all this. In America, they do things obviously quite differently over there, which we know. That's not a dig to our American fans. We love you, but you do things very, very differently. And yeah, I think they had a training ground 20 or 30 miles, maybe even more away. I forget what Jay said exactly. I think it might be 40 miles even actually. But yeah, they just redeveloped that and turned that into the new stadium, and people weren't happy about it. But ultimately, it was their equivalent to the council's doing, shall we say? So I don't think there's any worry that they're going to try and pick up and drop Elland Road elsewhere. For now, anyway, I don't see it. Certainly for in the near future. But yeah, the redevelopment, I think, is it not already started? Have they not started taking boxes out of?
Yeah,
adding more seats into boxes or something.
I've not been able to verify it anywhere, but there were a rumor this morning from somebody that has no reason to lie. You know, he's somebody I've known for a long time and that I trust. He's not in the know, and I'm not in the know. But he's clearly heard it from somewhere for it to be specific. But basically what it said was a bit of work going on in the West Stand to take out some of the boxes and so on and put some additional seating in, just to get somebody. I think it's 400 seats going in. I don't know how many that means is coming out, but they are doing some work. So it feels to me that might just be, do you know what, it's too close to the start of the season for us to do anything meaningful, but let's get as many seats in as we can, which makes sense. Given the timing, it makes sense.
Yeah, he mentioned that he'd love being at Elland Road as well. Actually, it falls in nicely that he'd love being at Elland Road, but he's hated sitting down. So he'd much rather to be in the thick of it in the terraces. So, who knows? Maybe they'll walk amongst us. Maybe that'll be part of their, their ethos. No, I'm speaking seriously. Maybe the investors, everybody is part.
No,
of
I'm only
49ers.
laughing because of what would have happened at the tail end of last season if tried that. They wouldn't even come to ground by end.
Yeah, no.
He had an infection in his eye, didn't he? Come on.
Yeah.
Different country altogether, like.
So yeah, no, I think always round it's so positive. The overtures being made, the fact that we do need Ellen Road. I think Jay said in the comments it needs a lick of paint. It needs quite a bit more than that, doesn't it? But it's still home, and I think we would lose. And as Parag said in the interview, it would lose so much if we moved away from there. And Luke, I think you've been to West Ham away a couple of times. Yeah. And it's just, if you compare that to, I never went to Dublin, but it was known for its atmosphere and it was known for being a difficult place to go and play.
Close to the pitch, it was intimidating. It was horrible for away fans to get to. This is almost in a shopping centre. You literally walk through the shopping centre to get there. It's not
shit, isn't it?
It's just commercialised bollocks. It is. It's their stadium, and I'd hate for us to ever get that like that. I would hate that more than anything. I think the one thing that we, as Leeds fans, pride ourselves on is that atmosphere, is that that old school football ground and old school fans and proper fans. I'm not saying West Ham fans aren't proper fans anymore, but they've got a circus now that that's built for athletics that they've modified to get more gigs in that than they have football matches. So it's the way of the world, unfortunately, that everything is commercialized and is money oriented. But yeah, look, I don't think we're anywhere near that, and I think while we're still talking about this new ownership, I don't think that's in their plans at all for now.
Yeah.
Do you think the way we go on about Ellen Road, where we're like, oh geez, we'd love a bit of a revamp and a new stand here and new stand there, we're the type of fans who turn around and go, well, fuck it, we've just lost all the atmosphere there now by putting that piece of shit up. And you kind of look at it and you're like, well, it swings and roundabouts. You want to improve the place, you might lose a bit of atmosphere with a bigger stand next to you, that kind of thing,
That was one of my concerns, I think.
Yeah. And I think but we also know that something needs to be done, and I think if you do that iteratively over the course of multiple seasons and you're adding a bit, I think knocking down a stand, rebuilding it, losing that stand for the time that you're actually building it for, and all of that sort of stuff would be a bit of a nightmare. But if you can somehow architect improvements across all of the stands and build it in through the summers so that we're not closing down a stand during the period, we're not losing the Cop or the South stand during the period of which it's having work done to it, for example. That for me is the way that you try and do it. It just takes a long time to do it that way. It's like moving into a house and then trying to renovate it rather than doing it while it's empty, and it's just so difficult that way around. But the schedule comes so thick and fast. I mean, if we look at this season, and I think it were Phil Hay himself on the Square Ball podcast, we're talking about the timings, and actually, if you worked out, if you were in a normal season when the Premier League ended, and you look at when the takeover was ratified and so on, we'd have been like mid-May on the timings of it being fully ratified if we'd have finished normally, rather than, or maybe it would I can't remember what he said now, but we'd have been about 5 weeks better off in terms of the timings, I think was the point he was making. If we'd have been at a normal season and hadn't had to take account of the World Cup and whatever else. So, I think that's quite an important point to remember, because, we're thinking, were the 49ers not ready for the takeover and all of that sort of stuff. But
yeah,
in terms of when the season ended, it's not been that long. It just feels like it.
Yeah, it hasn't been long at all. It's only a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think when we rewind a little bit as well, and I think it was Graham Hyde who was on here, who was the assistant or vice chair of the Supporters Trust back then. But we all voiced our concerns about American ownership. We did, and one of the things we highlighted was the identity of Leeds United, and that we didn't want. And I've seen loads of comments coming in about popcorn and hot dogs being launched from the South Stand and all that sort of thing. And that's not what we want. But ultimately, if that is what we're going to have to, if we're going to have to sacrifice a little bit of our not even our dignity, I suppose, our identity in that our Yorkshire identity, to have a few hot dogs on the stores and popcorn, but to have these owners in there that are actually going to give a shit and actually drive us in the right direction. It's a small sacrifice to make, I feel.
Yeah, and we've already got hot dogs anyway, aren't we?
Yeah, and I've succumed to that. I've succumbed to that now. You know, I was at the stage where I'm Yorkshire. I want Tetley's bitter on the south stand, and I want Yorkshire pie wraps and all that sort of bollocks. But I think since that interview, and it must have been a couple of years ago when we had Graham on talking about this, that the potential that I think it was when the deal was first agreed to be taken by the 2024. We talked about it in some detail, But yeah, I was very much against it, and then I think that obviously things happen, and things happen badly, and even worse. And then you sort of just think, actually, just anybody buy me, even the beheaders. I'd even let the beheaders buy us. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's tough, but you've only got to look at Newcastle, and their fans are buzzing. You look at their spending money; they've got all this money. They don't care where the money comes from. They're football fans at the end of the day. They don't care.
Yeah, and you look at the scum fans that were all up in arms about Man City and all of that, where their money were coming from and how it's sport washing and whatever. And then as soon as the Norwich scarves come out, it's like, just bring on that Arab money, bring on the oil money.
Yeah,
football and certainly being a supporter is so fickle. I'll be honest, I wouldn't want it, but I'll be celebrating the goals just as much as anybody else when they go in, if that ever happened.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of other things to get through, but Luke, do you just want to go through some of the comments?
Of course, yeah. We'll go right back to the start. There's been loads coming in. Thanks everybody for your comments as always. Just fly through some of these, and if there's any talking points, we'll have a quick chat. But we've already touched on this. Prague speaks really well, says all the right things. Out of all our winners from Skip, this is a good question actually, and we probably will come on to this in a little bit, Skip. So I'm going to hold that one back. Kev says Prague sounds he's learnt from Rads. Yeah, touched on that. Skip again, much better feeling around the Leeds fan base. Still has a lot to get done before the window shuts. Yeah, and it probably will take us on to our next talking point, Skip. I'm sure we are going to have a bit more of a chat about that. Kevin Marston says he's just sold on the 49ers at this point. Yeah, I mean, I was sold on Rads at one point as well, so we know how things can change very, very quickly. Well, it's true, the day we got promoted to the Premier League, we were sold on Rads, weren't we? Let's be honest. Yeah. Every Leeds fan, if you're honest with yourself, thought Rads was God's gift as an owner back then.
Well, they got us promoted, so yeah.
It's what we'd crave for so long, wasn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely. Nigel's got a question for you, Gilly. What size is your shirt?
It's a large.
I got a large too. It's very snug. Very, very snug. LUFC Dan, my mate Dan, I think he's on about Marathi. He said he's got notebooks full of info he's gathered. So that's probably from board meetings and how not to run Leeds United, I should imagine.
Yeah.
Eddie Leeds, another fan of the podcast who's on every week. They've been surprised that Orta was basically the contract guy alone, which we know now it's dangerous. 49ers will be a panel of heads of department all together through contract negotiations. And we'll come on to this Steinson. Is it Steinson? Is that his name?
Mm.
The guy we've got in from Spurs. Is that his surname? Steinson?
It's something like that.
Yeah,
it's close enough for me to be able to say yes.
So, yeah, I think it sounds like he's going to be taking the head of recruitment type director of football role. But there is also going to be lots of sort of equals that are going to be, so we don't make that singular mistake again. That's what it sounds like to me anyway.
It's a difficult balance, isn't it? Because what you don't want is
too many cooks,
committees and not making a decision.
Yeah.
But also what you don't want is too far the other way, with one person making all the decisions and getting it wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul Brennan, we have been burnt a lot from past jokers, but the 49ers seem to be running well and make money. I feel as though we're in safe hands. Dan again says he sat back, watched the shit show, learned what needs to be done to repair and be successful. That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, I'm kind of on that board as well, yeah.
Yeah. Daniel UFC rums it. We can only loan 7 players out. I think that's 7 players over the age of 21, if I'm not mistaken.
And not homegrown, I think is the terminology.
Yeah. 49ers, if they weren't so professional, they wouldn't have all these sports people investing. That's a really good point. You know, all these
Why would you put your money in? Yeah, very good point.
These winners, absolute winners. You know, they're the absolute cream of their crop. They're absolute. You know, has Phelps got something like 20 Olympic gold medals?
I think it was 18. I saw the breakdown of all of the silverware that all of the investors. It's unreal. I'll see if I can find it.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
Good point, Eddie. I missed this one actually when we were talking about Marathi. He mentioned about he'd love to see all the shirts around the Bay Area with Adams on the back. Now that was a bit of an indication as to, or was it an indication, or was it more in hope? Do we think? I'll ask you now. Do you think Adams is going to stay?
I think so.
I hope he does. It would be an odd thing to say if he didn't have an inkling that there was a possibility of it.
Yeah,
I think so.
I don't think he drops something like that if he's not confident he's going to stay. I think they're going to offer him the armband as well.
I think it's a huge hint.
You think the armband as well?
I think the armband as well. Yeah.
I thought maybe vice captain this time.
Well, I think if they give him it now, he's got a year as captain under his belt if we get promoted, and it just solidifies his position there as captain of Leeds. He got them promoted. It solidifies his position within the US men's team as captain. I like
centre backs as captains. I think
some of the best midfielders have been captains.
No, yeah, I agree.
You know,
but
I do understand why.
I would have centre back, and I just like I never a captain.
But they can read the game a lot better because they see more of the pitch, and they're not a goalkeeper, you know. And I get that, yeah. But I think if you're going to have someone in midfield, you're going to give it to him, I think. And it's just.
But I think Verba this time. Who do you think, Luke?
Do you think? I think it's one of those two. Whichever one stays, I think both stay. If both stay, I think it's probably Tyler. I also think that if we're trying to keep somebody of Tyler Adams' caliber, that he gets his contract renegotiated as well. If he's had to take a 50% cut in one season of being here, I think that people like that have to have their contracts renegotiated. To try and keep hold of the best players. It's probably Willie Nonto as well. Somerville possibly if he's going to stay. You know, those players that are really excited and probably done themselves a justice in a poor Premier League side. I think if we want to keep them and they're serious about keeping them, I think we see lots of contract negotiations. Sinisterra as well. But they would also almost be like new signings to us.
Which we barely got to see Cine last year, did we?
Yeah, and having those players that we've just talked about there, having them in the Championship will be a cheat code.
Oh yeah,
that will be unreal. I don't think it's excessive to say if we kept all of them and added some of the players that have been talked about, the Upiros and whatever else. I don't think it's excessive to say that would be the best side the Championship's ever seen. I really don't, honestly. And now I'm not for 1 second saying I'm confident of keeping all of those players. I'm just saying if we get to season start, that would be insane, but would be a hell of a message for the 49ers enterprises.
Statement of intent, massively. Renegotiate the contracts. Give us 1 year give us 1 year and we will sell you at this agreed price if we're not up next season. Give us 1 year. We will get promoted. We're going to invest in this team. We're going to pay you. You've had your contract half. We're going to pay you, say, 75% of your original contract this season. And if you get us promoted, we'll increase it to 125% of what it was when you're in the Premier League. These little incentives. But yeah, it would be, like you say, a massive, massive statement of intent to and authority that we're not just dicking around with the playoffs this year, but yeah, I feel that positive. I think that I don't think it's outlandish to suggest that we might keep all of those names I mentioned, Gilly.
Not especially. I think I'm only saying that really because of a mindset that's similar to Karl's when he's being cautious. Because I don't want to let myself get carried away. Because not even starting the season, if we get to the end of the transfer window and we've got all them players still in our side, that'll be the best attacking lineup that the Championship's seen. It'll just be amazing. Anyway, do you want to carry on getting through the comments?
Yeah. Where did I get to? There we go. First thing that... Oh, sorry. Mark Edison said, Gilly, quiet is a great thing. We mentioned about how quiet we've been. They're here to run a club, not PR exercise. Yeah. Gilly, quiet. Gilly being quiet is a great thing. We just need some fans to STFU on social media with absolute tosh. Yeah, there's been a lot of that. Do you think there's been a massive increase this summer with people just making shit up?
There's been a lot of in the know accounts, and they seem to have popped up now a lot lately, don't they? And I don't know where they're getting them.
They've all seen the success of Dean Carr, haven't they?
Yeah.
Oh, rise and fall.
But again, it is the summer holidays, and we should be used to it now at this stage. It's, there's kids off school now, 14, 15-year-old kids. And
yeah, mine's not quite finished yet. That's what's concerning me. It's been silly season for some of the comments on there, and the kids aren't even off yet.
All right, okay.
Some of them have, but a lot of them haven't broken up yet. So it's only going to get worse before it gets better.
Can you tell I don't have kids? I always pick the school run to drive somewhere, and I'm like, why the fuck is this happening now? And it's like, school run.
Yeah. No, completely. Just fly through a few more, and then we'll leave some for a little bit later on. Just say big up to our mate over at the Just Joe Football Show. Big up, Joe. How are you doing, mate? All right.
Sup, Joe?
Nice to see you in here watching. Couple more then quickly. First thing Rads does, this is telling, isn't it? And it goes back to what I mentioned about me, and we,
Ego.
us. Egotistical. The first thing he did when Leeds has gone through, he's done an interview about himself on Sky and what he did wrong and why we didn't, and ultimately all he did was throw people he worked with under the bus.
Yeah. Absolutely that. You're saying about mistakes he made, but basically he said the mistake I made was allowing him to make loads of mistakes. I mean, that's just there's no I in team. Side before self. Well, that's where he went wrong, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. I will leave it for that. We'll come back to some more a little bit later on if you want, Gilly, before we finish.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. So I just want to get into the playing staff then. So just
hang on a minute. 1 second. 1 second.
Yes, he's popped up.
He's popped up. Here he is. You do know, Rylan, that there was a behind closed doors friendly played the other day, my man. My little friend.
He's got some stones coming on here, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Fair play to you, Rylan. Fair play. 9-1 though. And stay in your lane, pal.
Back in your box.
So just while you were going through some of the comments, look, I had a quick look, and you are right. Greta Steinson, 41-year-old ex-Bolton Wanderers defender. I don't remember him playing for them. I remember there being a lot of names similar to that. We had a couple ourselves, but I don't remember him playing for them. And he's only 41, so he can't have been that long ago.
Well, the kit they show him in is quite recent.
Sorry?
The kit they show him in isn't it's I think it was the season that went down or something, wasn't it? So it's not finished that long. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, you're fine. I'm just going to expand on the point that you made earlier. I think it was Karl around Nick Hammond. He's expected to continue. So he's taking care of this transfer window. Whether he continues beyond that or not remains to be seen. I think the YEP bit that I just had up there, just while I was checking the names, says it alludes to a possibility that he might stick around, but I don't think there's anything confirmed on that. And then Adam Underwood, who was the Academy Operations Director, has been promoted to the role of Football Operations Manager, which sounds like he's going to kind of have control at Thorpe Arch and be overseeing that there as well. So it's a lot more staged and controlled. I think is probably the right approach or the right way to term it. I think it very much felt like when Bielsa went, he had all of that staff that worked for him, and therefore there's a vacuum to try and replace. It feels like we're only just there now where that's being replaced, which that can only, it's not a positive that it's taken so long, but it can only be a positive that actually we're seeing the right appointments in the right places.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. A lot of it, I'd say, is down to yesterday's announcement as well. I'd say that there was quite a few things in the pipeline as well. I'm quite glad we didn't get that Leeds fan that was at Norwich. Jesus Christ, he knows how to run his mouth, that guy. Like that football director that we were
Danny
talking
Wright
about.
will be in the comments, not particularly happy about that because he was desperate to bring him in.
I don't know. Like, I didn't like how he talked. He's got a massive ego by the sounds of it, and we've just got rid of 2. Like, so I don't think we need someone else coming in with an ego that big. And was his record that good at Norwich? Really? Like, if it was,
20 minutes for Josh Sargent.
I'd say not. Although I think he was the one that signed Buendia and Pukki. So
2.
But there's 2 there, and there's lots that you'd have to say that they didn't get quite right.
Yeah, so I'm quite glad we didn't get him in. Like, I don't know much about the Steinson fella, but surely they've brought him in because he's a level-headed chap, and he's not going to go about things the way Orta did. Or
he's been described as a pit bull. And always gets always gets what he wants.
Well, there you go. That's level-headed. He's totally convinced by his own capabilities. So
I don't think level-headed and pitbull are synonymous with one another. I think they're missing. Sorry,
they don't have to be synonymous with one another, but they can go hand in hand.
So what I just wanted to do was run down the list of outgoings. We won't spend long on this. I'm just going to ask you the one question, and the question I'll be asking you is. Name me 2 we're going to miss. So Rodrigo, Koch, Tyler Roberts, Robles, Aronson, Christensen, Rocker, Forshaw, and McKennie. Karl, who's your 2 that you're going to miss? One of them's Rodrigo, which is why I've asked for 2.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'd all just be sat here saying Rodrigo.
Sentimentally, I'd say Roberts, just because of he was part of that team, just for a bit of crack. Well, like, look, he's about as good as any of the ones that have left on loan. Let's be honest. Like, so him and
he actually brought some money in.
Well, that's the other thing. Like, yeah, but
and not Rodrigo's not the other.
Yeah, Rodrigo was the other, but he.
I said 2 because one of them. The easy answer would be we're all going to miss Rodrigo, so I asked for 2 just to get a different name as well.
And probably Robles because of his antics towards the end of the season, where he was getting the crowd going and he was doing bits and bobs, and he did play all right. Like, he was, he wasn't the worst player I've ever seen play for us. So probably him and Tyler Roberts just for the shits and giggles.
Oh, I did say 2 because I assumed Rodrigo was going to be 1, but you found 2 anyway, so that's fine. Luke, assuming Rodrigo's 1, have you got another one?
Yeah, Rodrigo's definitely 1. One of the only players I would suggest towards the end of the season who could hold their head high and be happy with playing for the shirt for us. It's a shame to see him go. I was a little bit dismayed in the manner and the fashion and where he's gone, because I thought he would have left to continue with the resurrection of his international career and maybe gone back to Spain or something. But he's obviously opted for a payday before he retires, which is fair enough. I won't hold it against him. He, apart from his mad fucking crossfield ball to Saka for an assist and other weird stuff that he did. But there was no denying he looked like he was running in quicksand, but he was trying to run in quicksand. But yeah, look, he scored important goals, and he'll be remembered, I reckon, relatively well by the Leeds United fan base. But the other one for me, and again, completely negated in the fashion that they left, would probably be Christensen, because I felt he was playing quite well towards the end. It's when we played him in midfield and at centre back. He looked to have found his feet. He clearly wasn't a good enough right back in a back four. For us or the Premier League, but when we played him more centrally, he didn't look too far out of place, and arguably had his best games for us at defensive midfielder and centre back. So I thought that he might have stayed and given us a season to get back up. Obviously, again, completely ignoring the fashion in which he left and paid for his own flight to Roma. But yeah, fucking nuts in it.
Can I ask you a question? Would that compare to the 6 Note 6 or 6 Note 6 where they
absolutely
all
no,
not even close.
I don't think
just
so.
ask
No,
just ask.
no, close season, paying your own fare to get out of the country compared to sat in the changing rooms going, no, I'm injured. I refuse to wear the shirt.
Yeah, I think sentimentally, I think sentimentally it would be Adam Forshaw because it's clear he's a good player and he's got a lot of talent, but his body's fucked. His probably worse than mine.
The biscuits.
Sentimentally, he would probably have been a close third. Yeah,
he'd have been mine. I think the biggest regret out of those was Rocker because I had high hopes for him. He didn't deliver on any of them. Whether you can put that down to the formation or the training or the coaching or whatever else is irrelevant. He wasn't fit enough and it wasn't good enough. So the biggest letdown, I think, the biggest regret of the player is probably Rocker, but Rodrigo, yes, and the other one for me is Forshaw because if you look back at, I mean, I'm not saying he's the same sort of player in any way, but if you look back at Bridges, you know, they're the sorts of players you're thinking, I wish he could have just been injury-free through that period with us and then see what they could really have done because Bielsa earmarked him as a top player. So it is a shame. So I think my one would have been Forshaw along with Rodrigo.
Yeah. Did you see the darts last night?
I didn't.
Yeah.
Has anyone you've not seen?
Oh, I saw the still that you're going to mention. Actually, yeah.
Weston McKennie loves takeaways or something.
Mr. McKennie loves
a tiny little MOT just in corner. I don't know if you noticed.
That's class.
That was class.
Yeah,
that was funny. That. So, Karl, I'll come to you first and ask the next question. Then, of all of the names that we've been linked with so far, which one excites you the most?
The lad at Coventry, I'd say, because we don't have anyone natural to fit into that kind of 10 role.
Not Gyökeres. Oh, right, okay. Harmer, not Gyökeres. I was going to say.
No, he's gone to
on that one.
He's gone to Sporting Lisbon, isn't he, or someone like that?
He is going, I think.
Yeah.
No, that Harmer guy, we need to fill that kind of gap in that position in midfield, and he got something like 14 goals and 8 assists last season or something like that. So I think out of all the ones we've been linked with, now we could go back to the whole Phil Hay conversation and go, that could be one he's just fucking plucked out of the sky and gone, they should be after him.
I think you're right.
Well be, but I'm only asking about people that are linked. So
he plays like 8 in the 8 kind of 10 role as well. Like
I only ever saw him play sort of. I didn't watch a lot of Commentary. I'll be honest with you, but I didn't. Yeah, he was. He was like sort of a sitting midfielder, mid-central midfielder. More of a Weston McKennie that type player.
Piss off. more of the Weston McKennie we thought we were getting. You mean?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he plays slightly, but I don't think he would be the answer to the number 10 pod dodger. If I'm honest with you.
Who else have we been linked with that could sit in that?
I don't think we've been linked to anybody who can actually do that very, very well. But then again, we weren't linked with Ampadu until it was almost signed, sealed, and delivered.
That's not actually done yet, is it?
No, he's been in weirdo. He's been in for his medical today. I understand.
Has he? Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That
I'd missed that.
Perot, is it? Perot from Swansea.
That'd be my number one. Yeah.
They're asking for 20 million and he's only got like a year left on his contract.
But they won't get 20 million for him. I think Leicester pulled out because the asking price was too high, and ultimately they'll drive it up, and they'll lose out on any sale of him because he's only got a year left on his contract. I think we'll probably get him for about 12-13 million, which I still think is probably too much. But he would be my number one target if I was part of the Leeds recruitment team. We need a goal scorer. We've got players everywhere else on that pitch that can do it. We haven't got a proof other than the youth lads, which I think is probably too much pressure on them. Great for backup and cameos this season. Absolutely get him on, give him more of a run out, more opportunity than we should have done last season. But we need somebody proven who can do it at that level. And he would be my number one pick. I think Pirot.
Yeah, I think so as well. Yeah.
No, that's fair. I think mine would be Kamara from Rangers.
Really?
In the midfield. I think if you and I think that is because if you look at what we've got further forward, then we do have a lot of attacking talent, and a lot of it obviously depends on who we manage to retain. You are right, we don't have an out-and-out goal getter, but if you've got Cine at 10, Jackie on left, Willie on right, or you've got Jimmy playing, or you look at the talent that we've got, there's lots of goals in that lineup, especially at championship level. So for me, it would be more shoring up that midfield. Rocker's gone, Forshaw's gone, McKennie's gone. Adam's coming back from injury. We don't know whether I don't even know. Has he been fully training? I'm not sure. So for me, I think that might be where I'd lump.
Yeah, it's nice that we're linked with all these players. I just hope majority of them come off. Like that Ampadu now is meant to be a quality player. He's already got 44 caps for Wales, 127 caps.
To be fair, you could probably get that many caps for Wales.
I'm not Welsh though, so
well, that's why
you're not Irish either. Remember?
But yeah, I think he's going to be a good addition. He was played at centre back and holding midfielder over the last 3 or 4 seasons.
A lot of fans that have watched him play for their club are saying actually he's better in central midfield.
Yeah.
So that might be part of the plan as well. And do you know what? Having a bit of capability to move players around, I like him to have a main position. But being able to fill in, it's really not an issue, is it?
It could be all right. You could play him in that holding role, and then if we play 3 at the back and on the counter attack, he could fit into a back 4 straight away, and it's just a natural kind of. I'll just sit back there.
Plays 4-2-3-1. That's.
Oh no, I'm just saying like that. Yeah, there's just in case anything happens where we are in that kind of situation.
If he's pushing on his fullbacks, then we could switch to a 3 when we're in possession of the ball and make an extra man in there when both fullbacks get forward. But I think this is probably pronounced Bert Longerstein 1. As said, Rangers players can take hot crowds, which, all firm that if he's not wilted, if the Rangers fans are not going, he just goes missing against Celtic. And actually what they were saying is he plays better in the bigger games. Now, whether that's because he relishes the atmosphere and the challenge, or whether that's because he plays well against sides that are going to play football and not ones that are going to sit deep, because that would be the only concern for me, is if it's against sides that are going to sit deep, he's not going to have much of an impact on the game, purely on the principle that if that's the case, a lot of them are going to sit deep against us this season.
And he's not in the Rangers squad tonight.
Yeah. With the pace we're going to potentially have in our attacking options, you're probably right that they will sit deep and they'll probably play 4 across the back and 4 across the middle, and they're all sitting on the edge of the 18-yard box and such. And
we'll scare the shit out of teams if we start with that. Even Dan James, because pace scares defenders that are not top defenders. It scares the shit out of them, so they'll drop deep.
I've seen a couple of comments just coming. We need to keep Jan James. I completely agree. I think the championship, he's a top championship player, and he's probably not good enough for the top half of the Premier League. I think to keep hold of him would be quite important. I think as you both mentioned, he's got something about him that at that level there was a reason we went after him. And his record speaks for himself at championship level, but he's just shit off a shovel, isn't it? He's just so fucking fast, and he gives it his all. Do you know what I mean? I like that about him. I love to see him putting it on bigger players, and he'll play anywhere. He played up front. If he's played 10, he's played both wings. He's just one of these players who loves to play football.
That was one of the points I was going to make. We've had him now. This is the 3rd season we've had him, and we haven't seen him play consistently in his natural position. He's always been all over the place. If you give him the opportunity to play in his natural position and just attack players, we've seen what he can do. He did it for Swansea,
To be fair, who do you pick him over, though?
But this is the thing. We have that issue now.
What about Dan James as a right wing back?
You know what? He's certainly got the pace to be able to deal with it. How many wingers are going to be able to pace him? Not going to happen, is it? If he's caught out of position, look at Kyle Walker. Now, I'm not saying Dan James is as good a defender as Kyle Walker, but a lot of the time, what makes Kyle Walker an elite player has been his out and out pace.
Because been able to keep up with fast wingers.
Yeah,
he's fast as shit as well. So maybe there were talk about potentially making Jackie Harrison a left wing back, weren't there? And that fell flat on its face. I don't think that worked as a thing, but potentially.
Did you see the Man City released a video with De Bruyne and Foden sat there, and they covered up the face of this player, and I think his FIFA card had been released, and his page was something like, I don't know, 76, and they had to guess the player from his attributes.
Right.
Anyway, it turned out to be Kyle Walker, and they both just fucking stood up flabbergasted and said, he's the fastest man. The Kevin De Bruyne speaks like, he's the fastest man in a German accent. He's the fastest man on the planet. But in a German accent, he's the fastest man on the planet. And he goes,
he's
and
Belgian.
they just can't believe it. Foden's like,
he's Belgian. He's not German.
They speak similarly, don't they?
No,
they do with a British accent. They do.
I mean, that was. I would say that was definitely better than Jay's accent that he did.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm still trying to figure out what the hell that was. Like,
so is he?
Yeah, sitting there going, "What did I do that for?"
He is Belgian. I know he's Belgian, but they do not speak French, bit of French and German in Belgium.
Flemish in Belgium.
It's like a mixture of French and German, isn't it? Flemish.
No, the mixture of French and Belgian.
Who cares? Anyway, I did a good accent. Fuck it. Let's ride that wave.
You ride that wave. Moving on. In terms of the last couple of bits, Karl, you were joined by a gentleman from Norwich podcast. I did have a listen to that, and I think I've got to be honest, I'm looking at Farke in a different light now. After insight from there, when they were talking about the fact that he's a training disciplinarian, they'll be as fit as they've ever been, which we know that was lacking last season.
Yeah.
Those things. So, just in terms of the main message you took from that, was that it, or was there something else that you pulled out from that conversation?
Like that, there was a lot that he covered in it, and there was quite a lot of questions from the comment section as well. They don't speak.
I just can't get. But
yeah, like I asked him a few questions about the backroom staff that he was bringing in, and he was very on the ball with all the information he was given. And like you said there, before we spoke to him, I even said it to him. I think that I had my doubts about Farke until I read that, as Leeds fans looking in at Norwich, you don't pay any attention as to how much they're spending on transfers. You only just see how bad they're doing. And after speaking to him, you were kind of left with more confidence that given the right budget and given the right players, Farke could do something particularly special if he was backed. And we've heard from...
How much was he given in the 2 seasons? Can you remember? I know I'm putting you on the
18 million for... 18 to 20 for Buendia, and then I think another 5 million for someone else. So it was only back to about 25 or 26 million in both seasons. Yeah, apparently, yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. So
we spent that on Aronson.
I know, yeah. So when you look
more than that on Ruta.
Yeah. So when you look at those kind of aspects of it, like, don't get me wrong, I did say to him I was doubting his capabilities, especially because he didn't last in Germany, but he finished 10th in Germany. That's not...
They were hoping for Europe, weren't they, though?
Yeah, but they were saying it was...
He wasn't.
Yeah, they were saying it was like he had a lot of youth players that showed very good potential and this and that, and they were expecting to finish a lot higher, but... I think if he is backed and he is given a decent deck of cards, like Prague was saying, then I don't see why he can't accomplish what the board actually see in him. Like, I think your man is they're still gutted at Norwich that he's gone. Like, he said he'd have him back in the morning.
It sounded like there were so many overlaps, the way that they look at Farke compared to the way that we see Bielsa. There were so many overlaps. Disciplinarian on the training pitch, played attacking, entertaining football, possession-based, I think he said. And the feeling that the fans had towards him, I think, was the overriding factor, which I did after that. So I had my reservations about him, and it don't matter what we think about him. The board are going to do what the board are going to do, and the board have appointed him. So, they will live and die by that. But I had my reservations based on that horrendous run that he had in the Premier League. Now, I know that's with the minuscule, compared to what everybody else is spending and compared to the income that you get in the Premier League, it's just tiny. But it is still the worst record of any manager ever in the Premier League. And you're thinking, can he come back from that? He's not looking like he's struggling at the moment. He's looking like a man that's on a mission with something to prove.
He seems very confident in everything that he's saying. And I think if that comes across like that to us, you can only imagine what it's doing for the players. And because their confidence is on the floor after getting relegated. You know what I mean? It's going to take a big man to lift that confidence again. And Luke Ayling has already come out and said that he's really enjoying the training sessions. Like Held has come out and said there's far too much running, kind of in a jokey way. So like that, there's no one complaining about anything. And you mentioned that the similarities between Bielsa and Farke. I think the way it's looking with Farke at the moment, we could potentially have something close or similar to that again, but just in a different way, I think. But that kind of atmosphere, that kind of buzz, that kind of committed player, the players that we know are capable of doing things, but the football was coached out of them last year, let's be honest. So, they've got a point to prove as well, the ones that stick around, because they were part of that squad that went down. So you got to look at that, and if you can motivate those players after what's happened, then look, sure, the only way is up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Luke, to come to you, happy clapper, Luke. Let's focus on where we were last season with the happy clapping and all of that going on. I'm going to assume that this is going to be positive. Are we setting him up for failure talking about him in the same breath as Bielsa, or is he really going to bring back that goodwill and that good feeling that we've been lacking since Bielsa went?
I don't think it's fair to even categorise him in the same sentence as Bielsa, especially before a ball's been kicked. I think everything that Bielsa brought to Leeds and to Ellen Road, it's unrivaled. It'll never be repeated. And I think if we're expecting that, we're probably setting ourselves up for disappointment. I think we need to be realistic about what we're going to see and what we're going to get.
What happened to HMS piss the league? It's on there. It's happening.
Don't get me wrong. I still think we will absolutely walk the league this season. I don't think anybody will touch us. I think we'll probably get record points and record goals. If we sign a striker, and I still stand by that, I think we do need a good striker in this league,
and
I
keep
think
the
we've got all
important players to us as well.
Yeah, and obviously keeping it. I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but I just feel
you're not getting ahead of yourself, but record-breaking season.
I think in terms of the management and the leadership, I don't think Bielsa will ever be rivaled, but I think we'll have a much better squad than Bielsa ever had in the Championship, even in the Premier League. I think I almost feel we'll have a better squad this season than we had last year in the Premier League.
Last year, yeah, I would go with that.
And well, even any year in the Premier League, arguably any year in the Premier League, minus Raff and Phillips, So yeah, I mean, I'm probably over exaggerating when I say we're going to win record points and everything, but I do think we'll go up comfortably based on the early indicators what I've seen. And I almost feel this next couple of weeks is going to be vital, incomings and outgoings. But yeah, I'm excited, but I don't think that will be just down to Farke's management and leadership, which is where the initial question was. And even if he does get us promoted on record points and goals, I still don't think he would deserve to be in the same breath as Marcelo, simply because of what Marcelo brought to the city and everything else. So yeah, I think if we are going to start making comparisons, let's wait until we've seen how the football's played. And I think that's where it has to stop in terms of the comparisons, the football on the field, because I don't think we will ever have another Marcelo Bielsa ever in football, never mind at Leeds.
It's a good point. And plus, Fark is going to be backed. Bielsa was never backed.
Yeah.
So there's
but
polar
you know,
opposites in it as
comparing
well.
apples and oranges, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you know, I just hope. So I agree with you, but I hope, and it's not a fair playing field when you compare the two, because we have been relegated this time, but with that comes the parachute payments and the opportunity to really back a manager, and it's already a better squad than Marcelo took over. So yeah, I agree with all of that. I think that's all really fair. And just because we've gone back and mentioned some of those players, just a bit of a mention for El Mego. Pablo's retired this week, which, you know, it was a little bit sad. Maybe one day we'll see him back at Elland Road, and you know, maybe in some capacity or just as a visitor. I went over to Valencia, watched him play for Castellón, and it was amazing. It was ace. I'm really, really glad we went, and we made him cry on the pitch because we were chanting for him, and he had his family with him, and it was just brilliant. It was a great day. But what a servant, and I just wanted to
happy retirement,
give him mention.
Yeah. Tom Brown mentioned earlier, since we've spoken about them both in the last couple of minutes and the last couple of sentences, how do we feel about a statue? I'm not sure about a statue for Hernandez. I think you have to be the only statue we've got out there is Billy Bremner, you know, is he on that level, you know?
Yeah, and the Don.
And the Don. I'm on about it in terms of playing staff, but Bielsa, you could argue that there is an argument for some sort of recognition, but has that ship sailed now? In that it should have been done on the previous tenure.
Maybe, but he was done with them, wasn't it? I think Rad spoke about it and said he won't answer the phone to us because we're talking to him about naming the training facility after him. Well, Rads didn't deserve a conversation with him, and he's fucked off. So maybe he will now, and maybe we will be able to honour him with something. I don't think it's sailed to the point where I also think, if you remember, we talked about doing something on behalf of Eddie Gray and the boys from that era that have not really been recognised. I know there's murals and so on, but there's murals all over Leeds now, isn't there? But doing something potential on the east or the west stand, you know, them all lined up doing the wave or something along those lines. I'd like to see all of that, because I don't think there is enough that celebrates the history that we've had.
No. It was the most exciting. Those few years were the most exciting years I've had of watching Leeds United since I can remember. And even, I was very young with the European days and everything. I didn't get to many games back then because I was too young. But from my memory, they were the most exciting. And I think Paul Brennan sums it up really well. Mr. Bielsa is unique. He totally changed Leeds United and got us on top of the world. Got us on the world stage and back in the top flight. First time in 16 years, a total one-off. Look, if Farke breaks all the records and everything, and if he, you know, we're getting ahead of ourselves and speaking very hypothetically.
Yeah, we absolutely are.
even if he does, he hasn't saved the club. You know, we've been in that rut for so long. It was almost irreversible. We felt like we were going to be there forever, didn't we? And this guy comes in and replaces little Heckingbottom on it. I think he replaced. Was it Heckingbottom he replaced? It wasn't directly after Monk, was it?
No, it was Hockaday, wasn't it?
Hockaday after.
Anyway.
No, it was Steve Evans, wasn't it?
Hockaday took some credit for Bielsa being signed, didn't he? Have I made that up?
I don't know. I'm not sure anyway. But yeah, just to feed off my point, you know, we all kicked off that Gary Monk didn't get offered the job and whatever. We didn't throw enough money at him, and everyone was, who the bloody hell's this Marcelo Bielsa, myself included. I didn't know enough about him. I don't know much about South American football or even European football, if I'm honest with you. I don't even know much about English football. I'm just here for a laugh. But yeah,
by the way, it was Heckingbottom.
It was Heckingbottom, wasn't it? Yeah, and everyone was just like, "What? Who is this guy? We've got another, you know," and it just changed the whole way we perceived and thought about not just football, but life as well. He was almost a life coach for some of us.
You know
what I mean?
Especially during that period when everything was up in the air.
Yeah,
we couldn't. You know, I know that we couldn't go and celebrate the promotion properly and all of that, and there were nobody in the stands. But during all of that period, He was a shining light for us. So it's not just that, but against the backdrop and context of life just being really difficult at the time as well, I think is an important aspect. So I think you're fair in everything you're saying, which I don't think I've ever said to you before. So well done.
Positivity is rubbing off on everyone.
It is. Can we just go back to this question that Skip asked Gilly earlier on? Because I think it's quite a good talking point. Out of all the wingers, my dog's farted. Out of all the wingers, who do you think stays and who goes? Rutter, James, Harrison, Willie, Cini, Costa, Poveda, Somerville, and maybe even add Emmanuel Dennis to that if we sign him as well, because I don't think he's going to be signed as a striker. But which, I mean, suggesting we probably need to get rid of 3 of those, I would say. Which 3 would you want rid of, and which 3 do you think we get rid of? So I'll go with 3 would you want rid of. I'll start with you, Gilly.
Costa, Poveda, and Rutter.
You want rid of those 3?
Yeah.
And you, Karl?
Yeah, Costa, Poveda, and Jesus. Of all of them, maybe because he hasn't been around that much, James. I don't know.
Right, and
so the one that you just said we absolutely shouldn't lose.
Yeah, I know, but like you're just giving me names here, like.
Sorry, what more do you want? Just make some names up just so you can pick a different person.
Don't give him names. Just give him squad numbers that haven't been announced yet, and just see where they fall.
I'll just pick them and see where they end up.
See, mine would be same 2, Costa, Poveda. But I think my last one would be, and it's going to be cat amongst the pigeons, Jack Harrison for me.
It would be for a lot of people.
And I think that's the 3 we will lose as well.
Yeah.
I think we will get rid
out
of
of that
3.
list, other than maybe Cini, he'd be the one that I'd fight to keep most. But he's somebody that's divided a lot of opinions throughout anyway. So there's no surprise.
Do you think it's because he's quite stop-start? You know, he has spells during the season where he's not quite as consistent as he probably should be, you know?
I think, so Jason and I have had a lot of conversations around him, and I think, and Sneaky Scoffer as well, I think is another one that absolutely hates him. And because of that variation in his form. And I think if you could flatten out his form, so not say play at his best week in, week out, if you could flatten it out to be 90% instead of 60% and then 100%, maybe that'd work out. But if you had somebody performing at Jack Harrison's level on his best day every week, we'd never have got him in the first place. So I think we need to be a little bit realistic about that.
Yeah.
And his injury record speaks well. You know, he's very rarely injured. Works hard. So yeah, completely get that. But he doesn't overexcite me unless he's on. You know, and he probably only has 3 or 4 of those games a season. Let's be honest, where he does excite everybody and does look world class. And it's not enough for me. That's all. Plus, I think on the other hand, I think we'll get good money for him.
I was going to say that's the other point is if losing 3 of them. And if 2 of them are Costa and Poveda, which I think he's probably nailed on, if the one other that goes out of that list is one that brings in the most money that allows you to keep all of the rest of them, then commercially, financially, that makes sense. I think Willie's got a huge future, but probably isn't worth that much right now. Bearing in mind how much we signed him for, I don't know what his actual value would be. And Cini, because of his injury record more than anything else, probably has harmed his resale value right now and needs to have a good season for us. It's really difficult. But if you keep 5 of those and none of those 5 are Costa and Poveda, you're onto a winner, I think.
Mm-hmm. Which 3 do you think will actually lose then, Karl?
Well, I did say earlier, and I got fucking slated for saying James as the third.
No. I said that was who you wanted rid of the 3. If you had to get rid of 3, and who do you think will actually?
You didn't even listen to the question. No wonder you got lost.
Me.
Yeah. Right. I definitely want to keep Cini because I think
it's not who you want to keep. It's
just tell me 3 names who you think we're going to lose from that list.
Who we think we're going to lose? I think Somerville. Harrison, I think, might end up going to Everton or somewhere like that. You know what's going to happen, like
English football.
And I think it's going to be tough to hold on to Willie. I really think it's going to be tough to hold on to Willie.
It's not that tough, mate. I can tell you from experience, but yeah, no.
Luke will show you how to hold it next match
day. Speaking of next match day, Dan said earlier on in the comments, wonder if they'll let me take my cans of gin and tonic in the south stand because I pretend to have a plastic cup allergy, so I can take the cans in with me. I forgot I did that. To be fair, I'm always absolutely wrecked. So. Yeah, I do make up some silly stories. Then they picked up on it and wouldn't give me the cans. So I'd wear combats so I could take 4 cans in and that'd get me through the first half. Cans of gin and tonic.
And you're too tight to launch a full can at a player anyway, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be hot dogs this season. And popcorn. Yeah, cool.
I've talked about everything that I had on my list. So
shall we fly through a few more of these comments?
Yeah, we can get through some comments and then we'll just do the final touches.
Cool. Kev said I think he's talking about Adams when we were on about that earlier.
Yeah.
Thinks Adams might be given the captaincy as a sweetener. Woba had the armband over Ealing the other day against Barnsley. That speaks volumes, I think, as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just Joe, you've been working out, Luke. You know I have because I always wear a vest on your show. Scooby says, aye, but I take a wrong decision over a dithering. It's better to regret what you've done than what you haven't done. Don't know what we're talking about then, Scooby. I'm not sure.
What Rads did do was get us relegated, and I don't regret him not getting us relegated, which is what he didn't do.
Yeah,
I think I'm maybe being slightly unfair with him there.
Yeah, a little bit. Phelps has 28 Olympic medals. Fucking 28 Olympic medals. Jesus Christ.
I think it was 18 goals is what I'd seen.
Right.
Which is just insane.
And unbelievable. Speaking of vests, Luke, our players need now to play in vests. It's more your style. God, it's summer. The 49ers are wanting a stadium that will hold 50 to 60,000 fans to make Ellen Road compete with other Premiership clubs. That is the dream and that is the future. Again, it goes back to what I said about not wanting to lose that identity and that atmosphere. It's got to be done gradually, sensibly, and with more than just extending the ground in mind for me.
I like the other Premier League teams. Like it's a foregone conclusion that we will be again.
We will, man. We will. Don't worry about that.
Not going to take 16 years again.
Nah, no chance. Liam B says Nonto wants to stay. I haven't really read much about this, but I did see a couple of people mention it on Twitter earlier. But yeah, I haven't looked into it much. So if you want to link us up, Liam, on Twitter or whatever, as to where you've seen that, because I did see something along those lines. But be interesting to read that, I think. Bert Langostein says, first time here, so this is where the big beardy guy from on Just Joe's show is. All leads out with. Yeah, you'll find me here now and then when I'm not pod dodging or on Joe's show.
Pouring yourself about.
Yeah, with my vest on. The pod whore. Dave White says, hi lads, 54 years supporting Leeds has cost me a fortune in flights from Dublin. Great show, excited for this season. That's what it's about, innit? It's about getting the fans excited. And we all want to be in this position. We don't want to be. Imagine we just stayed up by the scruff of our necks like that's last season and we were still under Rads. We'd be dreading this season, wouldn't we? We'd be dreading the upcoming season because we know we'd be in the same shit, different year. So whilst it's probably counterproductive and actually a little bit, I don't even know the best word to describe it, but you shouldn't really think that actually I'm going to look forward to a season in the Championship over a season in the Premier League. We are, aren't we? Because we're actually going to win a few more games. We're going to have 46. We're still going to have arguably going to have a better squad by the looks of things than we had last year. We're going to see better football played. We're going to have more time, and we're going to have probably a better manager.
Actual football. Not just better football, actual football.
Actual football, yeah. Bert's back. Lads, would you sell Pat Bamford on a free? Yes.
Do you sell him on a free or do you just
sell him on a free? I mean, that's just giving him away, isn't it?
I think that's taking the piss. I think he was saying, would you sell him on a free? I think the argument would be yeah, let him resurrect his career elsewhere. Let's have them wages, and we will spend him on somebody who. Do you know what though? I say that and I expect him to. If he's still here, he'll probably bag a few this season.
Right,
it's his level. It's his level.
I expect him to get a few. If you,
I mean, you'd hope so.
If you think of what he did in the Premier League, now I know that's injuries ago and whatever else, but he's got the ability. He needs to be fit. He's got the ability at this level. No two ways about it. He's just got to be fit.
Yeah.
Fair play.
However, Danny's saying that Bamford will be top scorer this season. I don't know whether he means at Leeds or in the league, because I think, again, if he stays fit and if he stays at his club, I think Jamie Vardy's going to romp.
Yeah, I
top
do as
scorer
well
in this league.
But I was reading a bit on Twitter there that the coach they've got now obviously comes from the City kind of style of play, and he said that the rumor going around at the moment is he likes to build slowly from the back and work the ball through the phases, and that's not going to suit Vardy. Vardy's a very much a ball over the top man, really. Like,
well, he is, but he'll still run a channel.
Yeah,
the ball will still be played for him to run onto, and I think even if they are dominating possession, there'll still be a point at which there'll be a trigger movement, there'll be a ball into him, and they'll be running onto it. And I think the only way you counter that is by dropping off, and then he'll just score a close to goal finish because he's got that as well. So we are guessing about what's going to happen because we don't know until you get into the season who's going to be where and what's going on and who's going to be feeding him. Yeah, I don't think Barnes has gone yet. Madison's gone, but I don't think Barnes has gone yet, and they are.
Tielemans has gone, hasn't he?
Yeah, Tielemans has gone, but they are signing players and they are looking to get ready for the season. So I think if you get him fit and if you give him the service, he's going to get goals.
Yeah, and you know the frustrating
I'm just
thing
hoping
is
he
about
goes to
Patrick,
MLS.
Yeah, frustrating thing about him is he does all the difficult things really well and the easy stuff shit. He does all. He pulls his players away. He fronts up against centre backs. He's a frustrating centre forward to play against. I imagine for most centre backs. But then when he's got a 1-on-1 or a fucking easy finish or an easy pass or an easy out ball or something simple, he just does it absolutely gash. You just can't. I don't know. I don't know. Couple more then. Ampadu, going back to Ampadu, who's arguably probably going to be our first team signing of the summer. He's a good player and he's a mature young man for his age of 22. Apparently, he's a shout on the pitch and likes players to pull the weight. Weight. Their weight. Leeds United player, ready-made for me. Yeah, and that's the type of player we want, Paul. Now, I do have to put a disclosure out there. These two next comments are in no way related. The bad thing is I keep picturing Delia Smith in Lederhosen. It's frightening. Luke waving wieners in the stand.
Or in Delia Smith.
Oh, gosh. So I think that's it. We haven't really had we said that, Danny, earlier on. Yeah, I'm surprised they've not released anything else tonight because when that Manning was in Southampton for his medical, they couldn't wait to get that out. But this is Leeds United where it'll be about 7 o'clock in the morning or something when everyone's in bed.
No doubt.
Yeah, just the other thing on that is Andy's Man Club.
Oh, yeah.
Have we got anything for them? We like to mention them. We like to support them. Smarty and I are going to make one in, and we're going to go along to one just to experience it and lend our support wherever we can. So, but yeah, do we have something?
We do. We have an image in here that we can share. So all the July events coming up, they're still in date. 27th, Pool Snookers Night at Kirkstall Road, meeting at 6:30. On the 30th, they've got their monthly walk and talk at Roundy Park. You can take your pets, kids, missus, Somebody else's kids, probably not. But
We don't
anybody who
condone
wants
child kidnapping.
they're open. They're open
your-
to every. Preferably
your own
ignore
kids.
somebody else's kids, and you don't just ask if you can take somebody's kids to Roundy Park. But they're open to
Definitely don't do it
everybody.
without asking at all.
Yeah, don't offer money either.
Yeah, so they're looking out for facilitators who will be wearing. Do keep a lookout for their facilitators who will be wearing black hoodies with the logo below the Andy's Man Club logo. It's only taken me 2 years to get that name right. Any other funny comments? Ampadu may have failed his medical. Great stuff.
Cool.
What you went for funny, man? What the hell was that?
Oh, do you know what? Just while we're focusing on the positive, so negative to start with, we'll finish really positively. Somebody promised the Leeds United Foundation a certain amount of money that he was raising. He then kept it. So a few of us, present company included, decided that we were going to do what we could to overcome that. And we ever so nearly raised double the amount that it'd taken. So I've got a certificate. Unfortunately, I've left it downstairs, but we can put it out on the socials that the Leeds United Foundation has passed across because of the money that we had. So we'll share that on our socials. We've got to £705, and there might be an additional payment to that as well that would get us over £1,000. So well done,
Thanks,
everybody
everyone.
that was involved in that. Well done, lads, for the work and the effort. It was tough going some days, especially early on when it was fucking freezing and smashing it down. But no, it was. We all encouraged each other really well. There wasn't much of the piss taking because I think we were all feeling it once we got into it. We just it's brilliant, and the fact that the foundations passes it across, we can share that information, and I've got some detail on what good they do in the community, which we'll be able to put out on socials as well. Just well done, and thank you to everybody that supported us. Thank you to all the retweets and all the comments and the support that you gave us, and obviously for the donations that you did as well. Thanks everybody that was involved in that.
Just to reiterate that, thank you everybody. We have still got a couple of bits as well to auction off before the season starts. I've completely forgotten about it actually, but I messaged Jay, who's a regular in here, who donated the bits. We're just trying to work out the best way to auction them off. There's a newspaper clipping from
Jay Michaels, isn't it? I was confused. I thought you meant RJ, Dwarf J.
No, Jay Michaels. And then we've got a Columbia Sinistera shirt we were trying to get signed, but obviously everything got amongst us. So yeah, it might be a little bit difficult, especially if you're not here. But we have got those, and they were donated to Orta No Better by Jay to raise funds, additional funds for Andy's Man Club. So we have got a few bits going on. Anything else going on this week? We haven't got a game. We've got games Saturday, haven't we?
We've got a couple of specials potentially on the horizon as well. So we've got some additional other bits. I'm not going to go into any further detail than that, but I'm really looking forward to these. There's a couple of good things coming up. So
make sure you subscribe, or you'll see me in your sleep.
No one wants that. Just
subscribe, please.
Please, just come on.
Right, so unless there's any further final comments, we'll call it there.
Wrong Jay Jammy. He's not lovely. It was a different Jay who actually joined in the comments. It's not OKBJ who is lovely. It's Jay Michaels. So don't let Jay take the credit for that.
To be fair,
he's a knobhead.
Even our Jay can be lovely on occasion, but Jay Michaels was the lovely person on this occasion.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody. Thanks
Cheers.
As always for getting involved in the comments. Luke and Karl, thanks for coming along and joining me on this evening's show, and we'll see you again soon. Good night.